in this post-instrumental world where we have extremely powerful automated theorem provers that might enumerate all the theorems of math and all the interesting axiomatic systems, and there's no longer a role for mathematicians to be providing new proofs. Do you think mathematicians would still be around? Because, I mean, this is something that isn't... This is one element of Utopia that might not be that far out, unlike some other ones, because we already have automated theorem provers that are doing work that mathematicians can't do.
Yeah, so people play chess, even though we have computers that can play much better chess, or solve crossword puzzles, even though there is no need for crossword puzzles to be solved, and do a lot of other things currently, right? So the first answer one might think is, yeah, sure, we'll just do it anyway because it's fun. Now, I think we can't stop at that point. We need to unpack this idea that we do it because it's fun. So that could mean we do it because it gives us pleasure. Somebody who is fascinated with mathematics probably derive pleasure from engaging in mathematical thinking and occasionally maybe finding a solution. But if that's the only reason, there would be, again, shortcuts to attaining pleasure in a solved world. You could have more direct forms of brain manipulation that would stimulate your pleasure centers. I mean, you could imagine it as some sort of a super duper drug without side effects and addiction potential, or more likely some direct way of manipulating the relevant neural structures. Maybe we're all digital at that point anyway, and you just... and so, yeah, if all you wanted was to experience positive affect, there would be no need to do mathematics for that purpose. So if you do nevertheless think that it would be better to do mathematics, you then, it seems, value something other than just this hedonic state that you now very imperfectly and grudgingly, maybe some little drips of pleasure is derived every once in a while when somebody who is enjoying mathematics does mathematics. And there's probably just a lot of sort of boring, futile effort and uncomfortable straining to get to those occasional little drips of reward. That's the stingy way our current reward systems are architected, right? So you could kind of open the floodgates to that and then have a kind of more blissed out psychological condition. And so that's easy to dismiss. A lot of people immediately think that, wow, that's what a horrific view of the future that is. We're all kind of like junkies sprawled on some sort of flea-infested mattress, but with a super drug dripping into our nucleus accumbens. It might well be that ultimately we want and can have more than that, but it is actually a rather deep question whether we shouldn't dismiss too quickly the super bliss as an element of what we would ultimately choose and have reason to choose, perhaps. Nevertheless, I think we can have that and have a whole bunch of other things on top of that maybe satisfy other plausible value candidates. So certainly, if you do think that it is good to engage in certain types of activity, you could do that as well. There is no reason. You could have complex experiences, pleasure plus complex experiences plus various forms of goal-directed activity. But maybe and we can talk more about why you would be adopting various goals if you were in this post-instrumental situation. But and then perhaps some additional elements even beyond that you could kind of reconstitute some of the prerequisites for instantiating human values, even in this solved world condition.
I think what motivated my asking this question was reflecting on two conversations I had in the past on the show. One was with a renowned number theorist at Columbia University named Michael Harris that we had a couple of years ago, so it's a little faint in my mind. And another is with Stephen Wolfram. And we were talking about math in a world in which all of math is essentially automatable. And today, I think our folk view of what mathematicians are in the business of is just producing new proofs, discovering or inventing, depending on your philosophical view, more facts to be added to this big book of math. But what Michael Harris said, and what I think Stephen Wolfram agreed with, is that mathematicians aren't just in the business of producing new facts, they're in the business of understanding. That's what really drives what they're doing, is they want to understand these structures. And I was thinking that in this post-instrumental world, when mathematicians no longer have to produce proofs, they still would be very interested in understanding and maybe teaching mathematics. But then this raises another problem that I hadn't considered yet, that you discuss in some of the later, or the more advanced types of Utopia, where we have a matrix-like system of downloading information, where there's into our brains, where there's no longer any real barrier to understanding. You can understand anything as soon as you just download it into your mind. So there's not really an activity of being a mathematician anymore. Just if you want to understand the math, then you press a button and you understand the math.
Yeah. So this is a very advanced level of technology, and it's a little unclear exactly how close to this we could get. But certainly, if you imagine a human upload, like a digitized version of a human mind, and then you have on the outside some machine superintelligence that is able to understand how the neural network that is you sometimes successfully can grasp mathematical concepts and in other cases fail, and what variations of your neural network will be required, like what edits, to make it as similar as possible to you now, but with this extra mathematical understanding. I think it possibly would be the case that the job of working out how to adjust the various parameters in your brain to give you this mathematical knowledge could be outsourced to this machine superintelligence that is looking at a model of your brain, and probably be able to do that without actually running a detailed simulation of your brain, which if that were the only way for the superintelligence to work it out, you might then think, well, you would actually then be instantiated in the simulation and you would have to put in the effort, although the simulated version of you would do. But I think probably you would be able to move up levels of abstraction to more or less obviate that need. And so that you would then be able to, in effect, download skills or knowledge without having to put in time studying. And so, and the teaching of mathematics is even more obvious. I think we are very close now to having tutorial systems that would be much better than most high school mathematics. Aside from keeping the class disciplined and making sure everybody sits at their desk or whatever, but the actual instruction, I'd imagine maybe even ChatGPT-4 would be a better explainer than most high school teachers, because it can keep track of exactly where you are, where you get stuck on a particular problem, and sort of customize its explanation for you, as opposed to doing something generic for the class of 30.
Just curious, are you drawing the sort of distinction between ChatGPT or GPT-4 being a good high school teacher and a good university level professor because maybe there is insufficient training data on university level material for ChatGPT to be able to explain it better than a university professor could?
I don't know exactly. I'd imagine there would need to be some fine tuning maybe to adapt these large language models for specific use cases in the classroom. I'd imagine the standard university courses first and second calculus and all of that stuff, probably it would be able to explain, I'd imagine, as well as a mathematics professor. I think maybe once you get to the research level of mathematics, where it's more a matter of taste, and then I'm not sure the current language models are quite yet there yet, whether it would be as good as a decent mathematics professor in terms of figuring out whether a research direction is promising, or whether some proposal for say a PhD is the right level of difficulty that the student could possibly do it in 4 years. And I think there is there's obviously less training data written up for ingestion, and also it involves the most high level human faculties that haven't yet perhaps quite been attained by the current generation of systems.